Yeah, our thoughts are not his thoughts, and our ways are not his ways. Right? And so anyway, I'm in Mark. Uh, this is 12 and 41. And it says, and Yasha, right? Yahusha, right? Yeshua, Jesus, sat over against the treasury. And behold, look, how the people cast, that means throw, money into the treasury. So he was watching how they put or throw the money into the treasury. All right. Let's see. Can't see that mark. It is the seventh part of one piece of that brass money. So anyway, it says, and Jesus sat over against the treasury. And behold, look how the people cast, that means throw, money into the treasury, right? And many that were rich, they threw in much. They put a lot in, right? And 42, and it says, and there came a certain poor widow, and she threw in 2 mites. And the 2 mites is the seventh part of one piece of that brass money. All right. Interesting. So, and like it says, his ways are not as our ways, and our thoughts are not his thoughts. And he doesn't look carnally. If you look carnally, you think the rich people cast in much. You think they threw in their abundance, right? Basically, they threw in what? Not their livelihood, right? They threw in their extra, their bonus, their overabundance that they had. So it says, and Yasha, again, sat over against the treasury. And he saw how the people, he beheld how the people threw money into the treasury, right? The bank, the basket, the vessel, the jar, whatever you want to say. And many that were rich, the well-to-do, the well-off, cast in much. They threw in a lot. The wealthy threw in a lot, right? And there came a certain poor, humble woman or widow, and she threw in 2 mites, which make a farthing. And he called unto him his disciples, right, his students, his followers, and saith unto them, truly I say unto you, honestly, look, I say unto you, that this poor widow hath cast, she threw more in, she threw more in, she threw much more in, she threw abundance in, than all they which have cast into the treasury, the bank, the bucket, right, the basket, right? It says the treasury. For all they did cast, for all they did throw in of their abundance, right? So all the others they threw in their abundance, their surplus, right? Their extra money. But she of her want, says of her need, did throw in all that she had. Some of what she had? No. All that she had. Right? She gave all. And it says, even all her living she threw in. Right? So she threw in everything she had. Right? All she could afford. All that she had, she gave. Even all her living. Wow. So, that's all I was sharing, that you could fool yourself if you're thinking carnally with your physical eyes. It seemed that the rich threw in much more than those who are poor. Oh, who that have less than. She threw in all she had, even all her living, all that she had to live off on, she gave. Right? It says, beware of the scribes which love to go in long clothing and love salutations, greetings in the marketplaces and in the chief seats in the synagogues, the churches, and the uppermost rooms at feasts, which devour widows, those that lost their husbands. They devour widows' houses, livelihoods, and for a pretense make long prayers to the widows. These shall receive greater damnation, greater judgment. Scribes and the Pharisees, the religious leaders, devouring widows' houses, because there's no man to tell them, don't give all your money to the ones that are wearing sheep clothing, right? But anyway, it says, Jesus sat over against the treasury, and he saw how the people, the nation, threw their money into the treasury. He watched how they donated to the treasury, and many that were rich cast in much. They donated a lot physically. And there came a certain poor widow that lost her husband or didn't have a husband any longer, and she threw in 2 mites, which make a farthing. And he called unto him his disciples, and saith unto them, truly I say unto you, that this poor widow has thrown in more. It looked like the rich threw in more, but this poor widow has cast in more in the spirit than all they which have cast in the treasury physically. Because it was only 2 mites. Anybody that's physical or rich would say, oh, that thing is filled with money. They cast in so much money. Piles of money. She cast in 2 mites. And he called his disciples and said unto them, look, I say unto you honestly that this poor widow hath thrown more in than all they which have thrown into the treasury. Hers is more abundant, and it was only 2 mites. Like the 2 loaves and the fish. But anyway, for all they did cast in of their abundance, right? For all the rich, they cast in their abundance, their large sums of extra money they had. But she, of her lack, did cast in all that she had. Everything that she had. Everything? Yeah, everything. Even all her living. Anyway, that's all I got. I ain't got much. I just thought that was something. Judge not by the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. He doesn't judge by what he sees, right? But he judged the lions, the inside of men. He don't judge by the outward appearance, right? He judged by the spirit. If we judge by the spirit, she put way much more than what the rich put in. All right. Shalom.